special guest. Heather is here from fitbooks, and we're going to be talking about payroll for small businesses. Now, just to keep ourselves on our toes, we've had some tech issues this morning. So if you've been tuning in and there's some issues there, that's just due to the fact that Zoom is not cooperating today. So Heather's doing such a fantastic job. She's going to be presenting here. We're still going to get all the great content that we're looking for on a daily basis, but unfortunately, for some reason, her camera is not working. And so we won't be able to see her gorgeous face, but yes. So strap in for a great bit of a session here. Now, if you'd like to ask some questions of Heather, you can do that by using the comment section, the chat function, and the Q&A function, depending on what platform you're tuning in from. We'd love to get your comments and questions and feedback through those functions. So here we go. I'm going to unmute you now, Heather. Let's see if it, oh, try to unmute yourself. So yeah, there we go. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And I also apologize for the technical issues at our end.
I don't think it's you. I don't know what's going on with Zoom. I'm sure it's not you. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's launch into this. I am pleased to be presenting on payroll. Just to let you know, I'm not an expert on payroll, but what I am good at is I am good at coaching our clients and small businesses around the problems that they do face with payroll, just day-to-day issues, simple issues, and common things that staff ask of you, the employer, around payroll. So what I want to do is just look at some outcomes that we're going to cover today. So we're going to look at the benefits of using a payroll software. We're going to, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of a payroll intermediary. We're going to focus on pay run dates, and we'll have a brief look at timesheet entering and look at annual leave definitions. And lastly, and very importantly, I'm going to just show you, make sure you understand how annual leave is calculated so that you can explain this, and you will be asked to, I can promise you. So let's launch into this. Payroll is a very important part of every business. So if you're starting out in business and you're going to need to run a payroll, which we hope that you do, it's important. You'll know that it's important because payroll is paying you and it's paying your staff, and you and your staff are a very important part of payroll. Okay, payroll software. Using payroll now, we use payroll software. There is no reason why you would not use payroll software. We've probably got one farmer that doesn't use payroll software, and he's still in a world of pain. Payroll software does its job very well. It's designed to. It interprets the law for you. It keeps you up to date with legislation changes. We've got legislation changes happening on the 1st of April, and you've got a team of people behind you that you subscribe to that are writing those changes into your payroll software and making sure you're ready to go. You're completely compliant. Payroll software calculates wages accurately. That saves you stress, that saves you time. It's easy to use, it's reliable, and payroll software is cloud-based. Now, everything we do, everything we want to do needs to be cloud-based. I do payroll in our office. I do payroll on my client sites. I do payroll on holiday. I've also done payroll in the airport. I think that it has to be cloud-based. It's got to be accessible to you. We're on the move. That's the world that we live in. And lastly, payroll software is supported. It's supported by the team of people working behind the payroll software. As I've covered, it keeps you up to date. They're firefighting on your behalf. And there's one other aspect of payroll support that I'd like to suggest to you, and that is you think seriously about making sure that you have someone ready to go to support you with payroll in your business. we offer a service to our clients where we're ready just to from a phone call, from a text, from an email, we're ready to go, and we're ready to swap out or swap in with our client and take over their payroll in an emergency situation. We've got a lot of log-ons, and we can just sit right in and take that payroll over if they're ever in a crisis, if something's come up. And that's a very, very good thing for you to set up, whether it's with another colleague, someone else in your office. Can I suggest that particularly in this landscape, we have somebody ready to go to support us in payroll? So there we go. I've done a big quick blurb at you all about the wider picture of payroll. And now let's drill into our next screen, and let me give you an example. Let me just shrink that screen, and let me give you an example of a screen dump from one of the payroll software packages that I use often. This is Thank You Payroll. Thank You Payroll is a very user-friendly payroll package for the smaller sized business. This is an example of their current dashboard. Don't be too bogged down by all the bits and bobs everywhere. I just wanted to give you a view into their current dashboard, because I want to draw your attention to the message at the bottom there. They're alerting you to the fact, and they have been alerting us to the fact over the last few weeks, that as of the 1st of April, there's going to be a change to legislation around student loan deductions, minimum wage, ACC levies, and that they're all over that. That's the message they're sending you. They're all over it. They've worked on this on your behalf, as I covered just a few minutes ago, and they're inviting you to drill in and learn more so that you've got more detail and more answers for your staff. Now, I don't need to see that week after week after week, and so I can just exit out of that and say, thanks, I've got it, and I know that I'm ready to go. That's all happening. The next screen that I've got here is a dump from Smartly Payroll, and here there's a little bit more information. Feel free to interrupt me, Anna Marie, if I'm talking too fast, or if you want to ask a question here. But this is Smartly Payroll's screen, their current dashboard screen. And I really like the fact that here that they're alerting you to the fact that they've had a recent webinar. They've recently hosted a webinar featuring their new enhancements that went live on the 4th of March. And also they're giving you an opportunity to watch a video replay. You'll find that most payroll packages have got a lot of television, video opportunities to teach you, to coach you through, and that's why I don't need to do that with you, but why I decided to give you more of an overview around payroll and its tricks and trouble spots, if you like. So here we've got a lot more information around, the changes that are coming in on the 1st of April, and it just lets you know what each of those are. And then right down the bottom, you may notice that it's giving you a prompt, and it's saying, hey, here, you'll need to update any employees currently that you've got on the minimum wage. And so that's a prompt where we need they're saying we need your buy-in now, and we need you to make some changes to your payroll. And if you don't read that and you don't keep ahead of that, then you'll find when you go to use payroll on your busy payroll day that it'll stop you short, and you'll have to make those changes at that time. And that is a good thing, because you can't proceed incorrectly with payroll. It does stop you. It'll banner up. It will stop you in your tracks until you make changes in order to keep everybody compliant and everything working properly and as it should. And that's what we want from the payroll software. Okay, I'm going to move on now. I'd like to talk about PAYE. Now, you probably are well aware of what PAYE is, but PAYE, quite simply, is tax. PAYE is pay as you earn tax, and we know that everyone has to pay tax on the money that they earn. It's your responsibility as an employer to take the tax out of each employee's pay and to pay it directly to the government. Nobody can do that except for you. You have to do that. Now, software can be as clever as it wants to, as it is. And there was a recent change where, as well as paying tax to the IRD, you also had to provide the IRD with all of the information around KiwiSaver, around superannuation, around student loan payments, and around child support to the IRD on your employee's behalf. So there were two things you had to do. You had to send through information and you had to pay the money to the IRD for the government. Fortunately now, that information is all automated. And so as you process your pay run, that information goes straight to the IRD, and that's a fantastic thing. However, you still need to transfer the tax that you deduct from your employees, and you need to transfer that over to the IRD, to the government, once a month. Now, I'm going to introduce the concept here of a PAYE intermediary. So a payroll intermediary is someone who does a payroll for you. And that's not what we're talking about here. That would be if your bookkeeper or your accountant or somebody was contracted to do your payroll for you. But we're talking to you because you are interested and you're planning on doing payroll yourself, I would say. And so you should. It's easy to do. And as I've said, the software is fantastic. But PAYE intermediary is someone who takes over the responsibility for fulfilling your PAYE as an employer, your obligations. And how that works is you actually pay. I've moved to another slide here, and that's just to demonstrate here as I talk. How this works is you actually pay all of the gross every pay period to your payroll intermediary. So Thank You Payroll, this is a screen dump from Thank You Payroll, they operate as a payroll intermediary. And so using this, I can then transfer my entire gross wage to Thank You Payroll, to their Guardian Trust account, and on due date, the 20th of the month, they pay on my behalf the tax to the government. They also pay the wages to my staff. So I transfer the gross, they pay the money to my staff, and on the due date, they pay the tax to the government. Now, why is this good? This is good because once I've processed pay run, I don't have to think about it again. And the feedback we get from a lot of our small businesses around cash flow and just around remembering is that when they use a payroll intermediary, they can completely forget about that compliance side of paying the tax over to the government, and they can just carry on with the things that they should be carrying on with. So I hope that I've explained that clearly, but I do want you to consider if you're new in business, if you're a small business, that you look at the option of using a PAYE intermediary, and you just let that look after itself on your behalf. Now, there are two good software packages that operate as a PAYE intermediary. One is Thank You Payroll, that I've got here on the screen, and the other one is Smartly. Smartly, there we are, Smart Payroll. They are the other good option there as a PAYE intermediary. Okay, moving on now. I want to look at choosing your payday. Choosing your payday and payroll timing. So first of all, choosing your payday. I'm just going to flip back to this Thank You Payroll screen. Now, choosing your payday, your pay week may end on a Friday, and you might think, okay, payday ends on a Friday, I'll pay run on a Friday. And I'd just like to suggest that you just don't do that, because you're relying on receiving everyone's hours. You could have people tied up on a job, you could have someone head off on annual leave, and you just might not get all that detail. And sure, you can go ahead and still run payroll, but you're then in a position where you're correcting hours in the following week. Friday's a really tough gig for payroll. So then you might be a nice person, nice employer, and you might think, okay, I'm going to run payroll on a Monday. So my pay week finished on the Friday or the Sunday, and Monday is I'm going to pay myself, or I'm going to pay my staff. And again, that can be a pretty tough gig, because Mondays are invariably busy. Mondays are often a public holiday, and when it is a public holiday, you are required to pay your staff in advance of that public holiday. So then you are looking at processing your pay run in advance so that the money is able to go through on the Thursday night, even, to make sure it hits your staff bank accounts on the Tuesday after the public holiday. So Monday for a few reasons is pretty tough. It doesn't give you a lot of room to move. And I'd like to suggest, if you've got the option, that you go with Tuesday, Wednesday, even Thursday. Once you've set that up, a lot of my clients use Thursday as their payroll day, and the staff get used to it. This is what we do. You receive your wages on a Thursday or a Wednesday. With this thank you payroll, the way that they operate here is that you transfer the money on a Monday, and if you're choosing, you can see on the screen there at the top, a 2-day processing turnaround. Your staff will be paid on the Thursday. Or if you're busy on the Monday, something's come up, something's happened, you're on a site, it's a public holiday, you may do the payroll on Tuesday and choose the 1-day processing, or you've got a backup day of the overnight option. So that gives you a lot of room to move. And we're busy. If you're running a business and you're wearing many hats, it's quite good to give yourself that room. So I don't know if that's a helpful tip for you all, but that's giving some thought around to choosing your payday robustly, or so that it can be something quite robust for you. Okay, I hope we're going all right there and I'm not bombarding you. Payroll timing is the next issue I'd like to look at. Payroll timing is probably the aspect of payroll that I find people make the most mistakes with. And so I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on this, just to help you understand that best practice around payroll is to check your dates. Every time you do a pay run, check your dates. I've gone back to the thank you payroll screen. Sorry if I'm flicking back and forward a bit here. But with this thank you payroll screen, in this orange box here at the top, straight away, I'm going to check my date. So my pay week started on the 7th, and I can use that calendar there. And my payday is the 17th. Now, if something has happened in my previous week and I ran my pay run a bit late, or an error occurred, and I won't go into what those errors can be. They're usually user errors, and that's okay. But what can happen to these dates is they can get pushed out. They can get delayed without you even noticing. And so all of a sudden, you've transferred the money, you think payroll's great, you've processed it, and you get a phone call from one of your employees to say, I haven't received my wages. And then you find out that they all haven't received their wages, and you jump back into your dashboard and you see that the pay has gone across to the payroll, and that the date actually got bumped forward, and the software thinks that you want to pay them the following week. So it's really important. You can see here that with these dates, and also on my next screen over here with this MyOb on the right here, that's a MyOb screen dump. You can see here how often. This is an option again to confirm dates, and it's asking me how often. This pay run is fortnightly, and again I'm checking my dates. The first thing I do, my pay week started on the 7th. It's going to run for a fortnight, and that is my payday. So can I please say that the best practice is that you check your dates before you do anything else when you start a pay run. Hopping back into the thank you payroll screen, there's an option here that I'm highlighting called default pay and copy last pay. If any of the payrolls that you use give you those options, Oh, I'd like to suggest that you just don't use them, because I've had situations where somebody has gone to run a payroll and they've just forgotten that last week one of their staff had a sick day, and when they go, right, oh, that was we've just had an ordinary week, everything was normal, and they go copy last, and they keep copying last because it becomes a bit of a quick, nice, easy habit. All of a sudden they find out that actually they've been processing 1 day sick leave for that employee for the last few weeks, and then that's a fixed situation that you need to correct. So best practice, my experience here in coaching and dealing with clients, is choose your payday where you're being kind on yourself, and when you start a pay run, check your dates. Those are really important things. Okay, let's move on here and look at client onboarding. Not client onboarding, sorry, that's another hat that I wear, obviously, but employee onboarding. When you onboard an employee, the software helps you do that really, really well. You can't make a mistake. You can't miss something important out. And this here is a screen dump from Thank You Payroll, but they all are very, very similar, where you are led through the process of onboarding a employee. I find that I encourage new people in business to create a new employee pack, and to take out of your software the information that it's going to ask you, and create a one-pager for your employees to fill out, so that you've got all the information that you need when you go to onboard them on that busy pay run day. And you print out some KiwiSaver information, which you're obliged as the employer to provide, and you put that together with their individual employment agreement, and you give it to them as a new employee pack. There's other things you may like to put in there pertinent to your business, but that's just a good thing to have up and ready to go. So here you will be led through all the information that is required, and I don't need to go through with you step by step. But I will point out a couple of things. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, there's an option to put in an email address for payslips. All payroll software is encouraging that, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't do that. Make sure you get their email address, pop it in there, and they will get their payslip straight to their email, and you'll find that is there for them whenever they need to look back and get copies as needed. They can see it straight away. They know they've been paid, they've got the email. It all happens at once when you process the wage, and it's just a fantastic thing. You can see at the top of this screen that as you build the new employee's information, you're taken through a set of tabs. So first of all, the employee profile, and then just behind that orange arrow, I'm sorry I blocked it out, is your standard pay details. So your pay rate, perhaps standard hours, which you can override, and other information that you're asked for. Pay types, which is where you're invited to add in allowances that your employee might be entitled to. And then you've got the KiwiSaver and Child Support tab. You've got the Leave tab next, which we'll look at in a few minutes. And then the History tab is actually something that you don't enter, but the History tab is history that is then built up by the software as your employee carries on with its employee timeline. The contact information is good to fill in. It's next of kin, emergency phone numbers, all that sort of thing that you suddenly need when you need it. And then you have also got the opportunity on all payroll software to enter in Ministry of Justice fines, like parking fines that someone might need to have deducted from their wages, or alternative bank accounts. Someone might want you to split their pay packet and put some across into a different savings account that they give you. So there are all these options that you are led through as you onboard a new employee, which just makes it very easy and very thorough. Okay, now let's look at entering a week, entering a timesheet. So employee timesheet information can come to you in a variety of ways. When you've got maybe a staff room, you might have something on the wall, old school, where people are writing their hours onto a timesheet, which you then get and use at the end of the week. But more and more, payrolls have the option of inviting employees to use an app. So you can invite them in to use an app on their phone, and they can enter their hours, which then feed into your software, and you're able to then look at that, check that they've done that correctly, and approve that and process it accordingly. But however the payroll hours come to you, you then enter them into the software or approve them. So here again, I've got a thank you payroll screenshot just to show you that here I've got at the top a very simple week for this employee. I've used the standard pay because it is a standard pay week, and I've entered her hours across her 5 days. Now, if you look at the other screen, or just beside it there, or the other entry, this would be a scenario whereby, let's say this employee worked standard hours on her Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but on Monday she was sick. Now, in that standard pay, you can see a drop-down arrow, and in that drop-down arrow, and again, this is the same on all payroll software, you have the options, you've got every option that you will ever need ready to go for you. So you'd be surprised how many are in there. You think, oh, I need to pay a bonus to my staff member. You click into that drop-down, and there it is, bonus, ready to go. Here we've got sick leave selected. So I just added another line, selected the sick leave from the drop down, and on Monday I've changed her hours from the standard pay to the sick leave option. And then let's say Friday was a public holiday. Again, using the drop down, I'm selecting public holiday for the Friday, and that keeps it accurate, keeps the records accurate, and all that hard work is being done, that history is being built in the background. You've also got the option here to make this employee's final pay. Now, final pay is quite a big deal, and I wouldn't ever like to calculate that myself. And so it's all done for you when you select that this is a final pay from my employee, and that is all calculated out for you. Okay, so that's a very simple look at filling out a timesheet. I want to just look at a harder option. If you had perhaps a bigger payroll and you wanted to use a product for that can cope with that, like My Essentials or Xero, they're good for your bigger payroll. And here is a screenshot of entering a timesheet hours for an employee in My Essentials. So I just wanted to show you how there's so many different options here that are working on your behalf and on your employees' behalf. So here at the top of the screen, you've got normal hours that you're entering. This particular employee receives a fuel reimbursement. So we've got set up already in the software the IRD kilometre rate of 76. So I've just entered this person's 45 kilometres, and it calculates it for me as a reimbursement. Then My Essentials does have that extra step of having to say how many days are being paid in the period, which you can see there is 5 in this case. There's an option there for a bonus, which does happen. And for this particular client, there's a reimbursement here of $40, and down the bottom of the screen, you can see that I have the option to just pop a note into this employee, and I've just said, hey, I've processed your phone reimbursement, and there it is there. I can just speak to that reimbursement. There is also an option to send a message across all payslips. For example, like an all-inclusive message, and it might be something like drinks in the boardroom, or down at our local wine bar at 4 o'clock this coming Friday, or some sort of, please get your timesheet hours in early because we've got a public holiday. Just any sort of message that you need to send, you've got that option. You've got that option using software. It's all here for you. Get to know it, use it. It's a good thing. Here we have a social club deduction too. So you can see that there's lots of things going on, and you can make that work for you. Okay, so that was how to enter, a brief look at how to enter timesheets. All right, we're going to move on to annual leave. Annual leave is something I do want to touch on, because annual leave can get very confusing, and annual leave can be mucked up really easily, and then that does create a world of pain for you, and you apply quite a bit of time, and you need to get quite a bit of support to have a look at somebody's annual leave, because there's questions around it. So can I say that annual leave is not something that you wing? Annual leave is something that you really rely on your software for, that you trust your software with, and that if you are unsure, you get support. There's good support around each payroll package. You get support, and you really take the time to get it right. So if you're new to business, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time here looking at annual leave. So an employee's annual leave year, it runs for a 12-month period from when they start. And at the end of each year, the balances are changed from one definition to another. And it's the definitions of annual leave that throw people, because payrolls were required a few years ago to rewrite their software to show annual leave using definitions, and it's the definitions that confuse people. So what do I mean by this? You need to understand these annual leave definitions. Okay, so accrued, I've actually taken this from the IRD website, this wording, and the IRD website, they like to use words that sometimes go around in circles, but anyway, the accrued is leave that is accumulated within a current pay year. That is accrued leave. Entitled, that is leave that has been accumulated, which the employee is now entitled to take, having reached an anniversary date. And advanced, this is leave that is taken in advance of an anniversary date. And strictly speaking, this is not entitled leave until each 12-month period is completed. Now, why am I pointing these definitions out to you? Because as of a few years ago, like I just mentioned, we were required to show to employees on their payslips the different leave broken down using these definitions. I've got a screen dump here, and on this screen dump, the screen dump is actually the orange letters on this screen. So that's a screen dump from 3 different payslips, and it's just to show you that on a payslip, an employee is given the annual leave available and the estimated annual leave accrued. And I get a lot of questions around this whole subject, and so I'm just slowing down and taking the time to point this out to you. So let's look at 3 different employees. Employee A hasn't worked a full 12 months. They have no entitled annual leave. They have accrued 7 hours since their start date. And so on their payslip, as this shows, their annual leave availability is 0. Their estimated annual leave accrued since the anniversary is 7 hours. Okay, that's nice and clear. Now, employee B, has 133 hours of entitled or outstanding leave available. And they have accrued a further 22 since their anniversary date. Now, on their anniversary date, when they've worked a full new 12 months, their accrued hours will move up to the above line and be added to their available hours. And that will keep happening. And that's also quite clear. Now, Employee C has accrued 83 hours since the anniversary date, but they've used 58 of these hours ahead of their 12-month anniversary. And so their annual leave availability shows it's minus 58. You will get your staff come to you and say, why haven't I got any leave? And what you need to coach them into realizing is that on their anniversary date, their estimated annual leave accrued hours will move up to their annual leave available line, and they will have a total of 25 hours because they've actually used leave in advance. And just to let you know that, and this isn't me being staunch, this is just to let you know that the Holiday Act does not recognise the concept of accrued leave and only refers to entitled leave. The accrual of leave is mainly done for accounting to record a liability. And this makes it clear to everybody, the employer and the employee, that when somebody leaves, that is what they are paid out. But they actually officially are not entitled to leave for the first 12 months until they've worked, and then their hours that they've been accumulating become available. You may agree to let them take leave in advance, and then their pay slip will show often that they have a minus annual leave situation, which you'll probably need to speak to. So it might seem that I'm labouring that point, and you might have moved on already in your mind, but one day someone's going to come at you with that question, and you're going to think, oh, I've got the answer to that. All right, very quickly, now we are going to look at annual leave a little bit more, and just quickly look at the way annual leave is calculated, because this is another trap that you'll be needing to speak to. So let's look here at Employee A. Employee A has been contracted to work 40 hours a week. So how is their annual leave worked out? 40 hours a week times 4 weeks is 160 hours. Now you might ask why annual leave has more and more started, is more and more being shown in hours. And that's because it's found, it's realized that people take annual leave in hours. They'll take 2 hours for an appointment here, half a day there, 2 hours over there for something. They don't necessarily take annual leave in days. And so it's being calculated in hours more. Sick leave tends to still be in days. You tend to see somebody taking half day sick leave if they're going home, a full day's sick leave. And if somebody takes 2 hours to go to the doctor, that's not actually sick leave, because if they were sick, they wouldn't be at work. That's actually annual leave for an appointment, and that's why annual leave tends to be in hours and sick leave tends to be in days. That was just a side note. So going back to Employee A, they have 40 hours times 4 weeks a year, which is 160 hours per year available to them as annual leave. Now, this Employee A, their hours have remained pretty consistent throughout the year, so there's not a lot of change to those 160 hours. However, Employee B, they're contracted to work 10 hours a week. So 10 hours times 4 weeks means they have an annual leave of 40 hours. Now, because of this landscape that we're living in, at the moment, COVID, if you like, there's a lot of extra hours being worked by people, by staff. And so this particular person only contracted to work 10 hours. They've suddenly been asked to work a lot of extra hours, maybe 25, 30 hours extra a week. And I want to just explain to you that this does not alter their annual leave. Their annual leave remains at 40 hours because their annual leave is based on their contract. So even though they've worked a lot of extra hours, how then does that get calculated to ensure that they receive the correct amount of annual leave, which is actually 8%, worked out as 8% of gross? And how that's done is that, I've moved to the next screen, how that's done is that the software will calculate for you what is owed to them when they take annual leave. And so this is an example of actually a GP, and their ordinary time is paid out at $100 an hour, and they've worked 39 hours, and that's their hourly rate. But they also took, this is across a fortnight, they also took 20 hours annual leave. Now you'll see that that hourly rate has significantly jumped. I actually went and looked for the biggest jump example I could find, because it is a real scenario. So because this particular GP has done a lot of covering and worked a lot of extra hours, a lot of extra shifts, the software has calculated 8% on their gross wages, and calculated that the hourly rate that needs to be paid across those 20 hours annual leave that they're taking needs actually to be adjusted up to, as you can see here, $159 an hour in order to ensure this person is paid correctly. However, their hours available have remained as per their contract. So I really wanted to point that out, because that is something that shows on a payslip, and it is something that you will probably need to speak to at some stage, but it is something that you do need to understand. So I've used up my time and I've done a lot of speaking. And I have covered everything that I wanted to cover. So I invite you back in now.
Hello, how are you? I'll put my thing on there. There we go. You can see me. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for this great session. And you're such a trooper for coming through. And it, honestly, so much great information. Even we've even got a comment here that says our current payday is Friday, and it's brutal. Thank you so much for that tip. Yeah. So some great information here from an expert on this, in this area on payroll. It's not something that can be, you know, messed around with as a
correct
livelihood. Oh, your camera is maybe working. I'm not sure. Interesting. If you have any questions, folks, just drop them in the chat. I have across the different platforms, I've just kind of said, hey, drop some questions in here for Heather if you have them. We did mention Thank You Payroll quite a bit, and we have done a session with Thank You Payroll where they've kind of talked about the tool. But what I like about sessions like this is that it's really nice to get the perspective of somebody who uses it frequently, or someone who educates other people how to use it. So it's very different than a product walkthrough, which is what we sometimes get from providers and suppliers. So this has been a really great hands-on calls to action throughout the whole session. And yeah, thanks for stepping in on such short notice as well. Most of you folks probably don't know that, but Heather was so kind as to come on today and educate us in this area. And we're very, very grateful. So yeah, you do have a very busy firm. It's a bit strange doing the session without being able to see you, honestly. I'm used to that back and forth banter. I'm just checking the different channels to make sure if anybody has questions that I don't miss them. But it looks like we're pretty good. So we might be good to go here, Heather. That's easy. You're off the hook. Yeah, it says, this was really great. Oh, gosh. Sorry about that. This was really great. Thank you. I agree. It was great to have a user perspective. Just going to, have a user perspective with We are. Thank you so much, payroll members, and love it. But it was great to get some more insight. Question: is it okay to lump sum hours for casual staff?
Is it okay to lump sum hours for casual staff? Casual staff, I think you set somebody up as a casual and they get 8% as they go, and it shouldn't really be any different. I don't know why you would want to lump sum them. Yeah, I would need more detail.
Maybe drop that in the chat, Susan. Yeah, and then we can address that for you. Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks so much for putting that in there. I'll continue to just monitor the other chats. Might have people typing, which is often the case. Yeah, we're good. Yes, this is an area. Okay, here we go. Because I keep hours in a different program and then add them as one unit for each project.
Yes, there is a facility to be able to enter an amount that you want to pay, and then the software will do the correct calculations. So there is that lump sum option in those drop downs.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at each specific payroll package that you're using to see how they work that. But definitely, it's a possibility.
Perfect. And she's just said it's too many days to track in the payroll. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for all of your insight here, Heather, and thank you for all your questions, folks. That's what makes these sessions really special, I think, is that the touch points between our speakers and our guests. When you make the sessions work for you, that's why we're here. Get your questions answered by the experts. I've got marbles in my mouth today, Heather. I don't know if it was the way we kind of started off or if it's just, a Monday or what it is. I'm going to blame it on everything. Okay. I don't want to cut us off too short because I want to make sure if you are typing that I haven't cut anybody off, but I think we might be good. So, all right, I'm going to call it. Now, if you guys have any questions, Heather's got her email there. If you think of something later, just a quick question. I'm sure that would you mind if somebody emailed you with a quick question?
No, that's absolutely fine.
Perfect. And you can always contact us at support@digitalboost.co.nz. We're here to help as well. And there's lots of different bite-sized video content on financial kind of tools that you can use on the website. So go into the financial area or accounting for small business category, and you can have a look at all of the different materials that we have there, from bite-sized to Q&As. Yeah. So educate yourself, make your life easier, digitize, and have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Ka kite.